Hey up cockers, it's another episode of your Darts World Weekly podcast. And as always, we have got an action-packed show for you today. We'll be discussing the PDC Pro Tour, with a smattering of the Polish Darts Masters. We'll be also discussing the PDC Women's Series, the MODUS Super Series. It is also the return of the Champion of Champions. And don't forget, we'll be discussing what is on the open road in your area. So let the Laurel and Hardy of Darts World do all the work for you. It is Harry and AJ.
Hello and welcome to episode 21 of the Darts World Weekly podcast. My name is Harry Masterson.
And I'm AJ Ernston-Toft, and how are we doing today?
Very good, AJ. How are you?
Yeah, it's been a busy old week and in all aspects, and when you look at all the results that we're going to be covering in the next 40 minutes or so, there's so much darts are cramming. I don't think I've got a case big enough.
There's a lot of darts to get into, and I feel that we should start with the PDC Players' Championships.
Pro Tours 11 and 12 were in Hildesheim last week, and following form, 12 events, 12 different winners, Harry.
Indeed, I don't think anyone wants to win two Players' Championships this year, AJ. It feels like they're just splitting them all between them all at the minute, and it was a fantastic couple of tournaments last week, and event 11 was won by the fireman, Alan Suter.
Yes, and an amazing performance, and it's been widely noted the work he does away from darts. He's a fireman. He brings up guide dogs, and he does a lot of charity work in his spare time as well. And this just seems to be, a very, very popular win, not just for within the dart players themselves on the Pro Tour, but for the wider darting public.
It was a fantastic story when it broke out after he'd had that fantastic run at the Ali Pali. We learned about all of his background, and going back to this Players' Championship that he's won, he's had a fantastic display. He beat Daryl Gurney in a last leg decider 8-7 in the final, and there was also a notable performance where he averaged around about over 107 in his match with Richie Edhouse. So he definitely had some notable performances as well during the day, and then he got the job done in the final.
Yeah, it was back-to-back 180s, if memory serves me correct, in that final leg.
Nearly a 9-darter, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that'd be some way to win it.
Indeed. I think it was an 11-darter overall from him because he went back and hit the double 18 in the second dart. But at the end of the day, he got 6 perfect darts. And in that sort of situation, both of them, last leg decider, 7-all in the match. Whoever wins that is winning the whole thing. That's their whole day pretty much in one leg. And Alan Suter found 2 180s, and that's remarkable.
We talk about clutch darts from time to time and clutch finishes, but if you're in that last leg decider and you hit 6 red bits, that's as clutch as you can gonna get.
Indeed, and he had to throw in that final leg as well, so he knew what he was doing in that last leg. If, at the end of the day, Daryl Gurney can throw 6 red bits as well, but the bottom line is Suter's got the darts first in terms of taking out the 141. And moving on to Players' Championship 12, and you mentioned 12 different events, 12 different winners, and it was Dimitri van den Berg that took the other title.
Yeah, and even by his comments, he didn't play brilliant. There wasn't any earth-shattering performances, but sometimes, you don't have to have earth-shattering performances to win titles.
He did. He said after winning that Players' Championship title that he knows that he can play better. He has played better on the practice board or in previous competitions, but in that Players' Championship, there was no averages over 100. But the bottom line is, as you say, he got the wins, and as long as you hit your doubles, you're probably going to go deep in many of the competitions, whether it's the Pro Tour or away from the PDC.
Classic saying, averages don't win matches, doubles do.
Exactly, or as Bobby Jaws says, trebles for show, doubles for dough, and Dimitri went away and picked up £15,000.
Yes, and that's made a lot of changes in the rankings for the Players Championships. You've got players now who have creeping into that top 64. You've got Chris Landman, who won his tour card this year, who performed really well on the MODUS Super Series of the past and in the Lakeside World Championships, if memory serves me correct. But now he's got into that top 64 with, Lee Evans also in there, Wessel Nyman in there. You've got a lot of players now who are creeping into that top 64 for them qualifying spots for the Players Championships at the end of the year.
Indeed, and you want to be qualifying for that competition as well, because it's the last PDC competition before the World Championships. So getting that match practice in before that starts is very important. And you mentioned Chris Landman; he had a fantastic year last year. As you said, he played on the MODUS Super Series. He reached the final at Lakeside, and both him and Andy Bartons are both having strong starts to their PDC campaigns.
Yeah, I mean, Andy Bartons is 47 in the rankings on the Players Championships. And, the further you go up, you're seeing these names that you might not necessarily know as in big names that you regularly see with the Premier League and the World Series events. But it's really refreshing to see these names that are now going to be playing on TV, on ITV later in the year.
Indeed, it's not easy when you first get your tour card. There's a piece in the recent issue of Darts World. It was exclusive with Adam Warner, and he's in the second year of his tour card this year. And sometimes it doesn't go. Sometimes it doesn't go to plan, whereas other times it can go to plan for different players. And it's not easy. The Pro Tour is one of the most brutal competitions to be playing in, and them
It's the
days
elite of darts.
it's the elite of darts. It's a whole day, and getting through and doing well in these competitions through the year with all this fantastic quality that's on show now, it's not easy. And players like Chris Landman and Andy Bartons, it's full respect to them for how they've coped with this so far.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it is cutthroat. It's brutal. The travel is brutal. And for them to, in the first year to get into this top 64, and obviously some players are going to be unfortunate at the end of their 2-year spell, but I think they'll learn a lot from it. And Q School might be easier for them, or they might have to go through the challenge, so like some players are currently. But I think for some of these players where it is their first tenure on the Pro Tour, I can see most of them coming back to it. I don't think it's, two and done.
Yeah, I feel like with the 2-year system, with the first year, I think it's a case of just expressing yourself, seeing how you fare with it, and then the pressure starts to kick in more in the second year, because if you're not in that top 64, you've got to go back to Q School at the end of the year.
Yeah. I mean, it's your classic get thrown in, tread water, find your level or try and improve your level, and then start going forward, moving forward. And it depends how quick and how strong you can get going. If you can get it done within the first year, fantastic. But then you've got your second year to really go for it.
Absolutely.
So there's the Pro Tour for the PDC, but then we move on to the World Series event that was in Poland.
So the triple header of this World Series of Darts, we've been to America, we've been to Denmark, and now it rolled up in Poland at the Pre-Zero Arena, and it was Luke Littler who added a second World Series of Darts title to his tally for the year.
Yeah, I mean, we wax lyrical at times with Luke Littler, and people's, as I said last week, people need to stop talking about him. But how can you not when he keeps winning events like this and in the style that he does?
I don't think I've ever seen a player in the first year of their tour card be as successful as this. This is becoming
Eclipse
more of a
Barnes.
reality now.
Yeah, it's eclipsed Barney's performance. I mean, obviously he had that year in where he was on the Premier League, very similar, as an invite, and then won the UK Open, and then it pushed on to that PDC final against Phil Taylor. And I'm going, that was a great first year, but this has just eclipsed anything that we've seen previously.
And there's no sign of it even stopping. Like there's much more competition still to come. There's a European tour coming up this weekend. We've got the World Match Play coming up next month as well, and he's
Yes.
already qualified himself for that. So it remains to be seen what more he can add to his tally for the year, and we're still waiting on that first major title for him as well.
Yeah, I mean, obviously he won the Premier League, but it's not a major in terms of the rankings. That's a
It's non-ranked,
non-ranked
yeah.
event. But you, if he's not odds-on favourite, he's going to be very soon because, as you say, the performances are just eclipsing the previous performance. And how high can we go? Well, I think it's limitless Luke Littler.
In- Indeed, and moving back to the Poland Darts Masters over the weekend, there were some fantastic performances. Again, it seems to be the normality now that one of the home nation qualifiers makes it through, and the PDC players also make it through. It was Boris Krichmar this time around at the Poland Darts Masters, and despite 5-180s from Nathan Aspinall in that opening round game, it was Boris that got the job done.
Yeah, and I think that was his first win over Nathan Aspinall, and and he played some really good stuff. I mean, he is a phenomenal soft tip player. That's where he's made his name. And I watched him in La Rochelle one time where it was a qualifiers for the World events that they had, and one of them was you played cricket and you do a round of cricket, and then you had to hit as many consecutive bullseyes as possible. And I think it was Josh Payne who had the previous record. I think it was like 20 something balls, which is massively impressive. But then I remember Boris going to 47 consecutive bullseyes. And it's like, wow, there's standards and then there's that.
Absolutely, that is fantastic. And you look at his form on the soft tip. They were mentioning it a lot on commentary during the World Championships, the back end of last year. He beat Dirk van Dijvenbode in the opening round, so we already knew that he had the quality to be able to cause any of the big names problems, and we saw that again in Poland.
Yeah, as we said, he was now the confidence in his game on the steel tip aspect. I think he's growing in confidence, and I think is this his third year on tour or fourth? But you could see, he had a high standard anyway, but now he's getting into the upper echelons and getting into the latter stages, and obviously this win and getting himself into the quarterfinals of the Poland Darts Masters, it's going to be a massive boost for him for kicking on.
I don't think there was anything that he could have done about his quarter final. Unfortunately, he ran into
No.
a rampant Michael van Gerwen who averaged, I think it was literally just shy of 110 average.
What? What average?
It was 109 point something, but it was very
Well, it's
close to
that.
110 average.
Yeah, it's that magic number that we've mentioned, and you say 110 average, you've got to be hitting that to be winning games. Unfortunately, Peter Wright also neared as damn it to 110, but on the opposite end. So my theory's out the window.
Indeed, that as you say, averages are not everything. It's all about hitting them doubles. And I think in that game, which Luke Littler did beat Peter Wright with the 109 average, Luke Littler had a 50% finishing rate, and that
Yeah,
is very important. You look at that stat, and that is the key stat from that
that's the
match,
hidden
and that
stat.
is why
Yeah.
Luke Littler was the player that ended up going through to the semi-finals. And that game was very important because obviously he ended up going on to win the whole thing as well. And you just look at this sort of start like Luke Littler, he's not just this player that's just going to throw in treble, treble, treble each time. He's also got this talent as well of being able to not play as well as his opponent, but still get the job done. And I think that's a very important trait to have as well.
Yeah, and I think the key thing to Luke Littler's game, and not a lot of people mention it because of his amazing scoring abilities, and but his middle game in terms of setting up for outshots and then choose like the way he goes for them outshots. His board management, as Wayne Mardell likes to call it, I think is unbelievable. And where he goes for the treble and the single of that same segment. So for 116 as an example, traditionalists go for the treble 20. If they hit the single, then they've got the treble 20 again. But Luke Littler goes downstairs because he prefers top. So they're going to there. He works his way around of how can I get to tops. I mean, it's very similar to Dean Winstanley, but Dean Winstanley's board management wasn't as good as Luke Littler's.
Yeah, and I presume when you're saying the 116, you wanting to look at the same the segment, I presume he goes to the
Yes,
treble 19,
exactly.
single 19 tops route. And
Yeah,
there's other finishes as well, which can, like, obviously you got the Shanghai. And talk about the same segment, he literally went for the same segment when he did the 120 in the Premier League, where he hit all three tops. So
yeah.
his group,
The
as
speed
you've
stuff.
mentioned before, his grouping of the darts that you've said in previous episodes before is fantastic. It's just spectacular, and it's another one of them skills that it's one of them traits that he has got as well, which is going to cause many problems for players in the future.
Yeah, he's really worked on his dart in terms of the way it lands and then the way it throws, but then it's maximizing the potential of how that dart lands. And you can see, most of the times the points are touching each other because of the way the dart lands. And that's not by fluke, that's by design. He's worked on that throw and then worked on the dart, and then he's got it to this, absolute unbelievable standard where he's able to pinpoint accuracy. And darts players have pinpoint accuracy, but literally pin to pin.
He's found the winning formula.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. So, and obviously that makes some changes to the rankings of the World Series, with Luke Little now taking top spot from Gerwin Price. So again, all change in the World Series, and again, it's either one Luke or the other.
I thought that Gerwin Price might have gone off top in terms of the World Series order of merit after he decided not to play in the Poland Darts Masters.
Yeah,
But the bottom line is he did get the ranking money. He got all the max ranking money the week before in Denmark. So
yeah.
he warranted the time to have that rest this weekend. And obviously there's still more World Series events later to come. And I'm sure Rob Cross is having a fantastic campaign on the World Series this year. He's going back to defend his titles in Australia and New Zealand. And we've also
Yes.
got the likes of Michael Van Gerwen will be wanting a second World Series. He's lost his Poland Darts Masters title at the weekend. And you've got Michael Smith as well. Nathan Aspinall's still yet to win this year. Luke Humphries hasn't even won yet this year, and he's the world champion.
Yeah. And then, as we say, we're going down under at the end of July, and you've got the likes of Simon Whitlock, Damon Heta. They're going to be wanting to cause upsets and get into that top part so they can go into the World Series finals.
Absolutely, they're unlike the PDC superstars. The hometown players only get their one chance a year, so it's all about them making the most of that and getting into the World Series of Darts finals.
Absolutely. So there's the men's section of the PDC, but now here come the girls, because it is the women's series. So the women's series events were in Wigan this weekend at the Robbins Tennis Park, and what a weekend of darts! And it really changed all tables for the match play and the women's series.
That was the big topic of conversation heading into these final women's series events before the women's world match play field was confirmed. It was about the players that were around them 8th, 9th, 10th positions, getting as much
Yeah.
ranking money as possible racked up so they could qualify themselves for it. And it was Eileen de Graaf that took the all important final spots at the women's world match play.
Yes. So, moving on to the first event, event 9, and that was won by Bo Greaves with a great win in the final against Mikuru Suzuki.
It was 5-4, I believe. It was last leg decider in the end, and I think there's been a few finals we've discussed in this episode where the final has in fact gone to a last leg decider, and again, Bo wanting adding another title, I should say, to her tally for the year.
Yeah, absolutely. And then moving on to event 10, where ADC event winner and newly signed by Red Dragon Darts, Jamie Hayter, just carrying on this marvelous form and winning her first PDC ranking event.
Absolutely, another new winner on the women's series, Gemma Hayter, winning on the WADC Championship Tour and now bringing that form onto the women's series. And all I can say is congratulations, Gemma, on your first women's series title.
Yeah, and she's been in some spellbinding form, and now adding this PDC title to her CV, it's only going to work wonders for her and carrying on for the rest of the year.
Indeed, it was a case of after winning that title. Obviously, we've told you who the players that are going to be qualifying for the World Match Play are, but after that win, it did put her in a position where she actually was temporarily in the qualifying spots. So that win did do wonders, and obviously it's a bit too late this year, but I'm sure with the remaining competitions this year and obviously the few events that we've got next year as well, she'll definitely be in that race to be qualifying for that.
Yeah, once the calendar resets, I mean, she's in a great position to build up as much money as possible to get into them rankings and then make her debut in the match play next year.
Indeed, I think it was a semi-final she reached in the first event this year, and I think she's reached a semi-final in one of the other competitions as well. So the signs were there that this women's series title was incoming for Gemma, and fortunately enough, it was this weekend that did in fact happen.
And then events 11 and 12 was a double for Lisa Ashton. But I think more importantly, looking at the bottom end of the top eight, Eileen de Graaf in the final of event 11. And then when you pair that with her quarterfinal berth in event 9, I think that was the difference maker for her to get into that eighth spot.
And I think she beat Gemma Hayter along the way in a couple in those competitions as well. So those wins would have been very important for Eileen in terms of qualifying for the women's world match play, because Gemma Hayter, after that win yesterday, as I've said, was there or thereabouts in terms of the race this year. But Eileen did get the job done in the end, and she will be featuring at the Winter Gardens.
Yeah, and speaking of ADC, women's ADC winners, Angela Kirkwood with a quarterfinal berth in event 12. And so you see that form of the WADC is transitioning over to the PDC Women's Series.
Indeed, and Vicky Prum was also I think she reached the semi-final in one of the events this weekend as well. So getting that match practice and playing competitively on the WADC circuit can help in terms of going into the PDC Women's Series as well, because as you mentioned, Angela Kirkwood winning one event, having a good weekend, as well as Gemma Hayter winning the two events in Middlesbrough last time out, and now going on and winning on the Women's Series. So it's a stepping stone, the WADC, and if you
Yes,
can get over the line in that and win a competition, then it can give you the confidence to go and win other stuff through the year.
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And then looking at the respective tables, so we'll look at the race to the match play first. So, as we said, Eileen de Graaf getting that eighth spot. And then seventh spot was Anastasia Dobromyslova. And then Rianne O'Sullivan is sixth. Noylin van Leuven fifth. Mikuru Suzuki four. Lisa Ashton with them two wins propped her up to third. And then Fallon Sharrock second. And Bo Greaves at number one. And then that is then the format for this World Match Play 1v8, 2v7, 3v6, 4v5. And there's going to be some very, very interesting games. One that springs out to me already is former ladies world champion Anastasia Dobromyslova versus Fallon Sharrock. For me, I'm earmarking that as a sleeper match where that's one where it could really go.
Absolutely. There's so many good games coming up with this for the Women's World Match Play, and I'm sure it's going to be a fantastic competition to be watching on that Sunday and in Blackpool. And you mentioned that game; that should be a fantastic match between Fallon, a former winner of the Women's World Match Play, and Anastasia, who's going to make her debut in the competition. So, and there's other matches as well to look forward to. Mikuru Suzuki taking
Yeah.
on Noelin van Leuven, and then you've also got Bo Greaves taking on Eileen de Graaf, and I believe that's a repeat of the Lakeside Women's World Final last year.
Yeah, it's amazing how, you've got these different forms of the game in terms of the different governing bodies, but obviously with the women's being slightly different to the men's, you're going to see a lot of the same names. But with Anastasia not being able to play in the WDF events, it's really good to see her back on stage, and she belongs on there. She is a legend of the game. She's done so much for the game, winning multiple events in all the biggies in terms of World Masters, World Trophy, and things like that. And I think she's rightfully there. She should be there.
She's been around the game for a long time. I remember when I first started watching darts, I think she appeared at the Grand Slam of darts and played Phil Taylor in one of those
Yes.
competitions. So she has been around for a long time.
And did she beat Vincent van der Voort?
I believe so.
Yes.
I
And then
believe so.
again, going way back when she first went over to the PDC to play in men's events by accepting the tour card, I was in the same venue as her for one of the UK Open qualifiers, and I think she got beat quarterfinal back then. So and so she was still mixing it back then with the fellas. But she's always been a great player, and as I said, I hope she really does well this year at the match play.
And the other quarterfinal that we haven't even mentioned yet is another. It should be an entertaining one. It's the winner of the MODUS Super Series Women's Week in Rhiannon O'Sullivan taking on the recent Women's Series double winner Lisa Ashton. So all
Yeah,
I
you
can say
talk
is that
about
this
form
field,
players. Yeah.
indeed, this field just is it's a fantastic 8 players that are going to be competing in this, and we're going to see some fantastic darts all across the week. We've seen Rhiannon O'Sullivan get the better of both Fallon and Bow in a competition with the Modus. So, and it's starting to get to that stage now where the women's game could become a bit like the men's game in terms of not knowing who's going to be winning these competitions come the end of it.
Yeah.
Like we've had the Pro Tour and not had we've had 12 different winners from that, and we're starting to see more and more players in the women's game start to elevate themselves, which is only going to benefit going forwards.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if, when this event was announced, there was a few raised eyebrows and, oh, did he really deserve it? Blah blah blah. Obviously with the Fallon winning at the World Championships, it was it's propelled from there. But now the women are speaking for themselves and playing some really good stuff. Modus are involved. You've got the WADC, which has been progressing from last year, and this has been progressing year on year. And I think it's only going to be sooner rather than later where this 8 becomes 16, and then maybe their own world championships, and maybe their own series finals or something like that. I think there's going to be more majors for the women in the PDC at this rate.
Indeed, it's trying to find that time in terms of looking to expand the competition because obviously you've got the Sunday, you've got the final on the Sunday night of the men's competition, then you have the women's world match play in the afternoon on that Sunday. So whether you can get to a position where you can put it on during the afternoons maybe of the week whilst the evening
Yeah.
sessions are on, because obviously you've got the sessions in the evening.
Yeah, or similar to what the WDF have been doing in the past, where they'll play like 2 men's matches and then a women's, and they'll they'll put them in together. I think it could work over the week. A 16-player event. There's definitely market for it because it does get views.
Or maybe put 5 matches on, and even as you say, like maybe combine the competitions, make it 5 matches on a night instead of 4. And
Yeah.
at the end of the day, I don't think anyone's going to complain with seeing extra darts and with the quality and
No.
how good that darts is getting now. Like you could be going to like 11 o'clock at night, but I don't think it's that big of a deal. And with matches that could be like 10-0, 10-1, and people leaving a bit early, having that extra game maybe gets the fans their full money's worth in terms of the full darting experience.
Yeah, because I mean, and the women's games, because I think the standard is a lot closer in terms of the top and the bottom. Uh, Not the bottom, but of this top 8, for example, the quality is very close. So you're going to get more tenser games, perhaps, and last leg deciders. You're going to get a lot more of them, perhaps. But that's the whole part and parcel of darts. Is you're going to have these quicker matches where it's done and done, and then you've got these games which are a bit more tense, bit not saying needle as in player on play, but I think it's just that atmosphere that it generates, and it's only good for the game.
Absolutely. And you've mentioned the 8 players that are going to be competing this year. And from looking at all the matches that are going on and all the players that are going to be competing, I am struggling in terms of trying to predict who's going to actually win this. And as you said, these quarterfinals, with how close the games are, they could end up all being last leg deciders.
Yeah, it's going to make very interesting indeed for the Predictor League.
Oh yeah, obviously we all know how good I am in predictor leagues, so hopefully we can maybe get a win under our belt for a change.
I'll be doing my damnedest to make sure you don't.
You've already done it twice, so I don't doubt that one bit.
So I think that covers all of the PDC. I mean, there's been so much, it's unbelievable. But now we turn our attentions over to the ADC.
So we turn our attentions to the ADC and in particular the Vault 7.0 with all of the rankings and the leaderboards being confirmed last week. We've now got the upcoming finals days for the respective regions that are taking part, and the winners of all those competitions will either secure 5 days at the Modus Super Series or 2 times going to play in either groups B or C for 2 days.
Yeah, this is where the vault really becomes the vault, and unlocking the vault gives you plenty of prizes and plenty of money, and it's a great opportunity for all these players involved. And there's not only just the vault finals for Modus, there's also under 65s averages for the players that are ranked below that. And again, it's a massive opportunity for them to get them into that tournament feel of darts. It's a longer format for these games, and it's that stepping stone that we've mentioned many times that the ADC are able to provide, where from your pub, then you can go to open events like like the open events we showcase on the open road. Then you can, once you start feeling confident there, then you can go on to the Windmill Tour, which is the next stage up. And then that's a great transition for the Challenge Tour. So it's showing you that pyramid, as it were, from where you can start from pub to the Pro Tour stage.
Indeed, and all the competitions that the amateur dart circuit do host, the opportunities that are there now for the individual players we've mentioned previously is fantastic. And you look at the finals days, of course, the players that are going to be competing there, the top 32 overall from the 7 weeks of action in the respective venues that they were hosting all of the vault competitions. I think you even won a vault competition in the latest
Yes, it has been known.
vault series. And this is what it is. It's a case of playing all these events every single week, trying your luck, seeing how many ranking points you can tally up throughout the 7 weeks, and it all comes down now to this one day on Sunday. And if you win, you then get a chance to appear on the telly or live stream.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what you'll find with a lot of players who are at the top end of these tables, they're going to multiple events week in, week out. So it depends on where you are locally and then what events are around you locally. And I know in the Northwest, I am but half an hour away from probably 6 events during the week. It's just I'm away for most of them with my job. But the opportunities are there if you do indeed seek them.
And you've seen with previous players that have featured on the Modus Super Series via these ADC. Look at Andy Davidson. He ended up qualifying for Champions Week via winning one of these competitions. We had Shane Haywood,
Yes.
who we're going to get onto in last week's Modus Super Series. That again, fulfilling and capitalizing on the opportunities that the ADC do give you. And
Yeah.
obviously, and we're going to get 13 more winners over the weekend, and they're going to get their chance to showcase what they can do in Portsmouth.
It's going to be a massive opportunity for them players, and here at Darts World, we wish all of you the very best of luck.
Absolutely.
So with the ADC qualifiers for the MODUS Super Series, the only next place we can really go to is the MODUS Super Series. So with the MODUS Super Series rolling into week 2 of the current series, again, we say week in, week out, we had all the highlights, but by jingo, what a week that was.
Indeed, there's so much going on last week. Adam Mould, the amount of times I saw him hit a big fish last week was ridiculous. And you look at some of the other stories. I mentioned Shane Haywood when we were talking about the ADC vault competitions, and again another player, Welsh international, that took full advantage of his opportunity at the Modus Super Series, but he just lost out in a last leg decider in the final to Canada's Jim Long.
Yeah, I mean, it was a great weekend for both Canadians. I mean, unfortunately, Jeff Smith didn't get into the knockout phase of finals night, but during the first 3 days of competition, he was in some form there.
Absolutely. And in terms of going back to that finals day campaign, it was a very unfortunate ending for him because he was he was one leg away
Yeah,
from securing his spot in the semi-finals. But it took last week. Well, we talked about the Challenge Tour a week ago. Justin Hood was the man that was one of the winners in those competitions, and he was the one that
yeah.
ended up sticking the final nail in the coffin for Jeff, unfortunately. But no, going back to his campaign in Group A, it was a fantastic display, and it was both Canadians going at each other in terms of trying to finish in the top spot in that group.
Yeah, it was just who blinked first, and on that occasion, Jeff didn't blink, but unfortunately, he blinked on the finals night.
Unfortunately, but in terms of it's another fantastic week in terms of
Yeah,
gaining confidence for Jeff Smith. Winning Group A is never easy, and some of the finishing I was seeing from him was absolutely superb.
yeah, it's something that we've mentioned in the past. With his cricket game that he's very, very good at. His checkouts are superb. But going to different target areas is really, really good. We talked about Luke being really good when he hones in on one area. Jeff Smith just seems to have this ability to go into different areas with his three darts and hit all three.
Indeed, and we saw that at the Super Series last week. Giving one dart at a double, and chances are he probably will take it because of how good that ability on the outer ring is. And it's unfortunate what happened in finals night, but I'm sure Jeff Smith will be back and firing once again.
Yes, he will definitely, definitely bounce back. But there's our two current winners for this series. And, we discuss week 3 next week and see how unbelievably good it's going to be again.
We've got the defending champion of Champions Week in week 3, and obviously we will let you know how Andreas Harrison and co get on in the Super Series.
So that was the MODUS Super Series, but now we're going into that magic part of the year for a lot of players where the Champion of Champions is upon us. So the guys at Red Dragon Darts have been extremely busy. They've got their new range of products endorsed by the current world champion Luke Coolhand Humphreys. They've got the world champion Tour Polo. They've also got the new Optimus set. New Cool Hand dartboard surround. They've also got the new Cool Hand dart case by Stone 2 and the Cool Hand Luke Humphreys flight collection, and introducing the Airwing molded flight technology endorsed by Cool Hand Luke Humphreys by Red Dragon. The 10-year anniversary of the Champions and Champions. The first event was in 2014 and now we're in 2024, but this is arcing back to the times of the News of the World Championships, where it is best of 3 throughout the event, from the first round in the Dog and Duck to the final in Cardiff. It is best of 3 all the way through, and this is what I like to call proper darts.
It's a case of if you don't perform early on, the chances are you're probably going to be done, because you've got to be there and ready to go from the minute that referee says game on.
Yeah, it's very, very easy to be out in this sauna. You've got to go all guns blazing, and then obviously you've got to do this multiple times in a day. It's one of the toughest tournaments in the world. I know we said the British Pentathlon was a tough event, but this one is the toughest of the tough, in my opinion.
Absolutely, it is a grueling day of darts. You've mentioned the format already. You've got to get through. It's 256 venues. You've got to come through one of those venues to secure your place at the finals day, and then you've got to perform at finals day as well. So you could do all the work to qualify for finals, and then just be out in the first round just because of the format. And if you're not there and ready, then you're done.
Yeah, it's go hard or go home. But Steve Degville, who won the first event back in 2014, and then you look at the list of previous winners, and it's a who's who of Welsh darts, but it's a who's who of darts in general. You've got Gerwyn Price, look what he's done since then. Johnny Clayton, look what he's done since then. Paul Hogan, who's been a legend of the game for years and years. Ryan Searle, look what he's now doing. Jim Williams, look what he's now doing. And then you look at the recent winners, Alex Small and Kurt Perry, they're definitely on the upswing in darts, with performances in the Challenge Tour, MODUS Super Series, and the list goes on. And hopefully someone's going to be adding their name to that fantastic list.
Red Dragon Champion of Champions qualifiers are starting to be announced now. You've obviously mentioned Kurt Parry and Jim Williams, and those are two players that will be returning to the Champion of Champions. Kurt Parry won at the Lantwit major RFC venue, whilst Jim Williams won at the Herdsman. But we've also got other players that have confirmed their spots at the depot in Cardiff, including Keelan Kay, who won at the Cherry Tree venue. Rory Jolly won at Old Iltydians. You've got Daniel Woods that won at the Cardiff West End Social Club. Gavin Stereo won at the Coy Trahan Arms. We got Marshall James that won at the White Lion, and we have
Marshall
Philip
James.
Evans. Marshall James.
Wow, 97 world runner-up. Wow, that's a name from the past. Bloody hell.
Blast from the past.
Yeah.
And finally, we have Philip Evans that won at the Oak. And there are also other winners that have confirmed their spots at the Champion of Champions. But as we mentioned, we're getting blast from the past. We've got players that have won the competition in the past, and it's starting to look like a fantastic lineup for this year's event.
Absolutely. And you may be watching this and going, how do I enter this event? It's really simple. You go onto the Red Dragon website, you go onto Champs24 page, and you can register there. It only costs you £5. And with that, you can go into any number of events you choose to. You get your unique number, and you take that with you when you register at these events. And there is a lot of events to go to. Looking at Scotland and the north of England, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 events so far announced, and that's between the 22nd of June and the 28th of July. Wales in Ireland, I mean, it's a full page of events, full page in Wales, multiple events all over the place. And then you look into the Midlands, just as an example, you've got the Berry Hill Social Club, Forest of Dean. That's on the 22nd of June with a 12:30 kickoff. The 3 Tons, and that's in Tamworth. You've got Clacton Sports Bar. You've got the Academy in Basingstoke. These are venues that we've previously mentioned on the Open Road. And going into the southwest of England, you've got you've got the Garland Docks in Bodmin, Hyde Park Social Club in Plymouth, King Billy Inn in Davenport. All these events are on the Red Dragon page. So you just simply look up your area and you'll find all the events, when they are, what time kick off and what time register. Get your £5 in. You've got a chance of £10,000.
Indeed, fantastic prize money on the line. Venues all around the country. I'm sure there'll be a couple around where you are, and you never know. You could be listening to this now and later on be one of the names that will be featuring at finals night. So why not get involved? Enter with £5, and obviously, as AJ said, you can enter as many venues as you can, and hopefully you can secure your spot at the finals day.
So I've been playing this in multiple years. I've played when it was at the St. David's Theatre, and that was a fantastic experience. And that's where I played Johnny Clayton when he got beat. Johnny Clayton, he beat me, and then he got beat by Paul Hogan in the final. Johnny Clayton, I think, is the nearest to ever doubling up on this event. But yeah, that was then. But now it's at the Depot in Cardiff, which again, fantastic venue, really good, really great atmosphere, proper party atmosphere. And then when it comes to the darts, it's deadly serious, and it's a great place to be.
A lot of people turn up for the Red Dragon Champion of Champions, so it gives this man a fantastic atmosphere in the venue. And obviously, you get to the semi-finals, you get to appear on the stage, as well as if you reach the final as well. And there's also the pairs competition as well.
Yeah, that's
introduced last year.
Yeah, and that's again a great opportunity for players, to make a full day of it. If they're unfortunate enough to be knocked out early doors, they've got another opportunity to keep playing and win some extra money to go.
Absolutely. You mentioned the people that are there. There's lots of people that attend the Red Dragon Champion of Champions, a lot of atmosphere, and I'm sure it's going to be a fantastic tournament this year. And are we going to get the first two-time winner of the Champion of Champions, or are we going to get another new winner on the 10-year anniversary?
It's the only way of finding out, and that's keeping up to date with us here at Darts World. But if you want to get involved, what are you waiting for?
And we wish all the players that have already qualified for the Champion of Champions the very best of luck on that finals day.
Indeed, indeed. So we've talked about the Champions of Champions, but that's not the only game in town. That's not the only competition around. It's time to go on the open road.
Hi, I'm AJ Ermston Toft.
Hi, I'm Harry Masterson.
And we are the voices of Darts World Weekly podcast, but we're not just a podcast, we are a magazine as well, and we've got the latest issue out. Issue 586 with all your regular columnists plying their trade and putting their words to page, but we've also got some special write-ups about the prodigies of darts.
Absolutely, there's lots of stuff in the brand new magazine. Of course, the article about the Premier Prodigies. There's also exclusives in there with Natalie Gilbert, Adam Warner as well, and obviously there's also stuff in terms of the Luke Littler winning the Premier League. Of course, there's so much stuff to get involved with, and what you're waiting for? Go check out the brand new issue now.
Yes, get on the website or get where you get your favourite magazine from.
So with so many ADC qualifiers and Champion of Champions qualifiers, there's not many other tournaments around, but we have found a few for you to take part in. There is one in Winslow, Greater Manchester, and that is at the Wagon and Horses, and it's week 2 of the 9-week knockout. This is where they have 8 knockout tournaments, and the 8 respected winners will go through to the finals, where they get a chance of winning £500. And as I said, entries are available. If you look on the poster, you'll see all the contact details there. And have indeed any competitions you want us to promote or give a shout out to, please do not hesitate. Contact us on X, on Twitter, on Facebook, and indeed on our email at editor@dartsworld.com.
And any players competing up and down the country in any of these competitions or in the Vaults regional MODUS qualifiers, very best of luck to all of you, and we are wishing you all the best.
Indeed, yes, very much so. Speaking of competitions, we have our winner of the Luke Humphreys bundle. That is the signed autographed copy of Darts World 585, along with the Flights and the Year subscription to Darts World magazine. A massive congratulations to Harry Cairns. The magazine, the flights, and that subscription will be over to you. Get in contact with us at Darts World as soon as you can. So with that all said and done, it just leaves me to say it is game, shot and match for this episode. I am AJ Emston Toft.
And I am Harry Masterson.
And we will see you in the next round.